Welcome to Quinn's Next Step. I'm Quinn. Today I'm sitting here with Cam at Canyon Lake Cigar Company, and he's going to teach me a couple things about some cigars and how to smoke them, cut them, light them right. Cam, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glad we made it work.
And well, first of all, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, the shop.
Got it. My name's Cam Miller. I've been in the industry for a couple of years now, the cigar industry. We're sitting here in the back of the members lounge of Canyon Cigar Co. in Canyon Lake, Texas, FM 2673. Come check us out. We've been here for over 20 years now. We've been a premium cigar retailer. We've got a walk-in humidor, some nice allocated blends you don't find all over the map, and we love what we do.
Oh, great. Well, we do have a couple of cigars here with us. Can you tell us a few things about each one?
Yeah, the two we're starting with, two of my actual favorite cigars. We've got the Diamond Crown Julius Caesar from J.C. Newman, and it's one of my absolute favorites. So the Julius Caesar is the J.C. of J.C. Newman. Back in 1895, when they first started, he was rolling cigars for a grocery store. His mom paid a cigar tutor, $3 a month to teach him how to roll cigars.
Oh, wow.
His brothers were tailors, I believe, and he wasn't all that interested in becoming a tailor. He wanted to roll cigars, so his mom made it happen. And they are the only still running registered cigar brand of the 42,000 that were registered that year in 1895. They're the one and only still going. Yeah, I think that's fascinating too. 42,000 registered cigar manufacturers in 1895.
That is really neat history.
You know it's an old industry. You know it's well established. Obviously, cigars have been around a long time, but 42,000 registered manufacturers.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that is a lot of history there.
And this one is primarily it's Dominican and Central American tobacco.
Okay.
It's a super rich cigar, full flavored. But not, to me, this is all personal perception, not a full flavored, like not a real in your face. It's going to make you a little queasy, not so you don't need to have
full
something
flavor,
in your
maybe
stomach.
More on the moderate side.
Yeah, full flavored, maybe not full bodied. Again, that's totally subjective. That's just how it smokes to me, but super rich, super complex. There's a lot of flavors in this, but it's not dominating you. It's all subtle. It's all there.
And how do you go about suggesting cigars for new cigar smokers, or maybe somebody that's trying to stop smoking cigarettes and prefers maybe the cigar experience?
Yeah, someone trying to break into the hobby. One of the first questions I ask newbies that come into the shop, which first of all, don't be afraid to ask questions. No one walks into something an expert the first time. Nobody expects you to be an expert and perfectly researched. It's better to come in, ask questions, and get a feel for different people's responses, because everyone's going to have a different answer. So when someone comes in saying that I'm really interested in cigars, I want to start this hobby, I'll ask them questions like, how do you take your coffee?
Okay.
Are you a cream and sugar coffee drinker? Are you black coffee? Do you like espresso? Do you drink, like, what's your coffee order? What's your tea order? Do you like whiskey? Do you like bourbon? Do you like scotch? Do you like wine? I try to get a feel for what they like and all those other aspects of what they're choosing for themselves.
So are you trying to find a cigar that pairs well
Not even
with
necessarily
one of those items, or is it like you were saying before about the intensity of flavor?
Yeah, kind of getting a feel for what you're personally after intensity wise. Because if your response is, "Oh, I only drink espresso," I'm like, okay, you like punchy, you like rich, you want something that's gonna hit you. Maybe you want a shorter cigar, even if you're just taking shots of espresso.
Okay.
Or if you're like, oh, I like an Americano. Okay, so you like some complex flavors, but maybe not so intense, maybe not so rich. If you're like, no, I'm cream and sugar, I take coffee with my cream and sugar. Like, maybe we'll go toward the infused cigar route to get you started, something with a little bit of sweetness to it.
Okay.
So not necessarily pairing with your response, but trying to see what you choose in other.
Like if they put vanilla creamer versus just milk.
Like, do you
something
like
in the
something
coffee, something like that?
sweet? Do you like something rich? Like, trying to feel what you choose in other areas.
Okay. All right, and next cigar you sold me on, the Maduro Leaf here.
The Leaf by
Can you tell me
Oscar.
about that?
One of my favorite cigars. That whole Leaf line I'm a big fan of. So it looks a little strange. You don't light the end of this. This is just the wrapper. Instead of having cellophane on the outside of that cigar, like a lot of other ones do, it's just wrapped in an old tobacco leaf there. Even the band that's on the outside here is a tobacco pulp, and I think it's even a tobacco-based ink that's on that band. So I think technically you could smoke everything but the barcode, I think.
Oh, wow.
But
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
I already
unwrap
took that one off.
if you unwrap that, it's a beautiful, beautiful cigar in there, made by Oscar Valladares, a much liked guy
Oh,
in the
wow.
industry. I believe he was a tour guide around some of the different cigar factories, and then started his own cigar factory himself. And this was one of not his very first, I learned recently, but one of his very early on cigars, made for a shop called Leaf and Bean out on the East Coast.
Oh, wow, that is dark. That is rich.
Yeah, don't let the leaf on the outside fool you. Absolutely beautiful cigar. Kind of the matching tobacco pulp band on there. Another medium-bodied cigar, but complex. It's got a lot of flavor to it. If you want something darker, something rich, but not an absolute, what they call a spice bomb. Not something that's gonna make your eyes water and but you want some of those darker flavors. That's a great choice.
All right. Well, yeah, the other ones that I've tried out so far have been a little bit more on the milder, moderate, medium side. Some of them have gone to more of a full flavor towards the end, but yeah, this one definitely looks like it's going to be full of.
That's a great step up from like a mild to medium cigar if you want to kind of explore some slightly darker flavors without
Definitely.
going too far off the deep end. That's a great next step.
All right, excellent. Well, how do we do this right? First thing,
Let's get them cut.
do we just slobber it up and lick
First
them?
things first, yeah, please
No.
don't lick your cigars, especially with the community cutter, except for a punch cut. Recently, I've had great luck if you're using a punch cutter on the end, moistening the very end of the cap a little bit. But today we're going to be using a V-cut, which, as you can see from the shape of the blade, just takes a little notch out of the end of the cigar. Rather than a typical guillotine cutter slicing the whole end of the cap off, this gets a little bit deeper into the cigar, promoting a little bit more airflow, but still leaves that structural cap intact, where you're less likely to have a little bit of unraveling on that cigar. The cap on your cigar, which you can see, there's 2, sometimes 3 caps on well-made cigars, a double cap or a triple cap. You only really want to cut into that first one. If you get too far below that, you run the risk of your cigar unraveling on you. So the V-cut gets into there, but still leaves that upper cap intact. Kind of like the rubber band on a rolled up poster. If that rubber band snaps, your poster is going to kind of unfurl on you. That's basically what your cap is doing structurally, is keeping that cigar shaped. And if you were to cut down here, which maybe if you've never cut a cigar before, your instinct, okay, halfway between the band and the end, seems like a good place to cut. It's a little too deep, and you're going to end up with that wrapper leaf starting to break loose on you.
A lot of loose tobacco in your mouth.
Yeah, you'll be playing the game all night. But the V-cut, my favorite one, I do mine sideways just because that's the way I like to do it. There's a little divot here, and you rest the cigar firmly in that divot, and then quickly chop, and it takes a perfect little cat eye almost right at the end of there. There you go.
Okay. First time using one of these.
Oh, really?
Let's see how it goes.
Oh, I love them. I love them. That's my preferred cut.
Yep.
Beautiful. Perfect. Let's see what you got. Oh, yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And then I always give it a cold draw, a test draw before I ever take flame at the end of my cigar. Give it a nice cold draw through. A, to make sure I got a good cut on there, that I'm getting the resistance that I like. And 2, you can get kind of a preview of some of the flavors, and you'll get some different aspects that you don't get when the cigar is lit. Sometimes you'll pick up on some sweeter notes, like on this Diamond Crown here for me, this Julius Caesar. I pick up on a lot of the sweetness that I don't really get when the cigar is lit. But once you get that little preview of it, once the cigar is lit, maybe you can pick up on it a little bit easier.
Okay. Definitely feeling like, yeah,
Anything
tasting
stick
more
out?
of a, definitely more tobacco flavor, a full tobacco flavor. For having been a cigarette smoker for so long, yeah, it's almost like a high red, like a Marlboro red, more full flavor that way, but maybe even like a clove, but not as
Not that
Not that tinginess or whatever that cloves have, that mint or whatever it is.
Yeah,
It's like without the mint.
Some of that outside flavor.
Yeah.
So you said a red, so you're picking up maybe like some pepper, like a little bit of heat off of it almost. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, next step.
Light them up.
Go ahead and light it up.
A single flame torch, typically my preferred type of torch. You always want to toast the foot before you light your cigar. It gets that tobacco ready to really combust and heats it up and gets the flavor right about where you want it. And you want to keep the lighter really as far away from the cigar as you can while still getting some heat onto it. What you don't want to do is really dig the flame in and light that lighter, because I mean that's a blue flame, that's a couple thousand degrees.
Yeah.
And you blasting that heat, if you were to just shoot it right up that cigar, is really going to scorch some of the inner tobacco. And it won't visually look damaged, but it really can change the flavor of your cigar. So hit it just a little bit on the bottom, get it almost kind of primed and ready. You'll start smelling the first little couple of whiffs of that tobacco. And once I see a little patch on there glowing, that's when I'll hit it with the flame. Take a few draws, and then a trick that I use is to blow on the end and see what's lit and what's not, if I need to go back and touch any specific spots up. It's great to me.
All right. I think I stopped too soon. Oh, there you go.
Beautiful. Perfect. Perfect. Starting to look good.
Yeah, you just let me know if I'm doing anything wrong.
Let's go ahead and take a couple of puffs through it and hit it with that flame a little bit as you do so. Beautiful. Great light. Fantastic. Now, unlike cigarettes, sometimes, especially former cigarette smokers, muscle memory kicks in and you want to take that draw and inhale it, which is bad news on a cigar. It can be a little bit rough in the throat, and the nicotine content is so much higher than a typical cigarette, just because it's 100% tobacco in there. If you were to slice open a premium cigar, you're going to see long filler. That's one of the things that a premium cigar means. It's long filler. It's not made up of short little bits of tobacco that are kind of formed into a tube and then wrapped up. There are full cap to foot. The tobacco runs the whole way through in solid pieces.
Okay.
So it could be a lot more potent. If you were to sit there and inhale the whole thing like you would a cigarette, you start feeling it before too long.
Oh,
It'll catch up with you fast.
Any tips on how to break that muscle memory habit, or?
It's tough. Think of it more like drinking a milkshake than you are smoking a cigarette.
Okay.
You just want to draw it into the mouth and then skip that second breath. And maybe steer clear of some smaller, skinnier cigars in the beginning, because when you're holding a very thin cigar, it can be really easy to fall back into that old habit. But holding something maybe a little bit larger, like this is a Robusto size cigar, 5-inch by 50 ring gauge, that can help feel like a whole new thing rather than falling into that old muscle memory.
Is there a big difference between you're saying shorter and longer cigars?
Primarily it's smoke time. It's how long you want to really sit there and relax with your cigar. So like a classic Robusto, which is this size here, is a 5-inch by a 50 ring gauge or a 52 ring gauge. A classic Toro, the next size up, is a 6 by 52, so just 1 inch longer, but the same ring gauge. You'll start noticing blends change a bit size to size. As you really get into it and you get a little bit nerdier about it, you're like, oh, I know I love the Maduro wrapper on this cigar. And so you may seek out a slightly skinnier version of that cigar. Just proportionally, you're going to taste a bit more of that wrapper leaf on the outside. For example, like a Lancero size, which is long and thin like a pencil. you get a ton of wrapper flavor off of that. So if you
Oh,
know
okay.
you're really fond of this specific tobacco, maybe try going for a size like that, which will smoke for about the same amount of time as this will, but it's a totally different experience. Same ingredients, but in different measurements, you know?
Gotcha. So for someone starting out, you'd probably recommend something shorter.
Like a Robusto. And
About that
typically
size.
a lot of blends are blended for those sizes. They're the most popular. That's what manufacturers know people are gonna gravitate towards. So buying a Robusto like this, totally safe bet. Almost every blend is gonna perform excellently in that size.
Now, one thing that I have noticed with cigars is that they tend to make me want to slow down, enjoy more. Whereas with cigarettes, it's puff it down as quick as you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Strictly.
hot rocket, get it over with, move on to
Right.
the next task of the day. Whereas, yeah, I enjoy the cigar experience more. Can you talk to that as far as the members that you have here? And,
A little more.
when people come in and hang out, like what is the atmosphere like here?
Cigars are a little more ritualistic than most other forms of tobacco. Like cigarettes tend to be very utility. Dip or snuff tend to be a little more utility. They're sort of a nicotine delivery system. But cigars are almost always secondary. Like with what we're doing here, I'm having a conversation. The cigars are really just kind of the vehicle for that. It gives you an excuse to do something.
Right.
Or for some people it's their own personal enjoyment that they're after. It's almost like a meditation time for them. Like I know that this cigar is going to take me about an hour to finish. So I'm going to go sit on my porch. I'm going to have my favorite bourbon, maybe at the end of the day, a nice rainy day like it is today, rare in the hill country.
Right.
But I'm just going to sit on the porch for an hour and just sort of shut my brain off, let it wander wherever it may wander.
When you mentioned the whiskey or the bourbon, what do you say to people that dip their cigars into alcohol?
You know, I've never really experimented with that. It feels almost a little taboo sometimes. It's like I'm just nervous. I've seen how much time goes into making a cigar. I mean, there are hundreds of pairs of hands that touch your cigar before it's a final finished product. I'm not a big drinker anyway, and so I've never personally experimented with it. But I know a lot of people really love it. They'll take their favorite one. I think after you'd cut it, because that gives it a chance to maybe penetrate a little bit into there. It's maybe just a quick dunk, maybe like the donut in the coffee. Don't drop it in your glass and then.
Don't let it soak like an Oreo.
Yeah. Maybe just a couple of quick dips. Maybe it leaves a little bit of flavor on the lips. I could see it being enjoyable, but I've never tried it myself.
Yeah, I think I would rather keep my tobacco and my whiskey separate. Maybe take a sip of the whiskey first, then take a draw. Because I'd still have the whiskey flavor in my mouth when taking the draw. So I'd have the smoky tobacco, peppery,
Yeah, a
in
little
this
smoke,
particular,
little drink.
with that whiskey flavor already in my mouth. I think would be enjoyable.
Yeah, I feel like it blends really well that way. I know a lot of people really love dipping them. I've never tried. I'm a little scared. I don't want to ruin it, you know?
Right, I don't want to take away from the tobacco flavor that's already there by adding another flavor like a whiskey or bourbon.
Exactly. Any other flavors sticking out to you? You know, you had that red, that little bit of pepper on the cold draw. Anything else kind of emerging out of that one? Anything new yet? It's still early on. Cigars are kind of divided into thirds.
My words of subjectivity on the cigars are
Absolutely.
still very shallow.
Yeah. That's all good. That's all good. A thumbs up and a thumbs down is sometimes all you need.
Yeah, for this one in particular, I would definitely say a thumbs up.
Okay.
For comparing it, like when I was 18, the cigars that I was introduced to would be the Macanudo Cafe.
Okay.
Or the Romeo y Julietas were really popular, I'd say, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And any chance that I get, I do tend to try a darker cigar and to try to get more flavor. And this one I would say is definitely more enjoyable, not as sweet as, say, the Cafe.
Yeah.
But you actually get more of the tobacco flavor.
Cafe is a great cigar to start out with too, especially for an earlier, freshly into the hobby. Macanudo Cafe, it's always light. It's always going to be easy smoking. You're not going to get anybody sick. Sometimes people are really sensitive to nicotine, and you're excited. You're smoking. You're taking lots of puffs on there. Maybe smoking a little too fast, and you'll find yourself getting a little bit green. But the cafe is a little more forgiving than some other cigars.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a great one to start out with. I think everybody should smoke that early on in their cigar career. Definitely, that's a checklist cigar for sure. For me,
enjoyable. Yes. So, what brought you to Canyon Lake? What brought you to the Canyon Lake Cigar Company?
I was a cigar rep for a couple of years, and this shop I used to visit fairly frequently, and I just fell in love with the shop out here. Life brought us to move out to the hill country anyways, and I called up Dan, who's been the owner here for over 20 years now. His mom actually had a business here for, God, I think decades before it even became a cigar shop. So this building has a lot of family history for the Bynum family. But I always loved the shop. Life brought me out to the hill country anyway. I called up Dan. I said, I'd love to run the shop. I would love to be in there. I really miss the retail side of things and getting to sit down and talk with people, and as much as I can guide people a little bit through the hobby of cigar smoking, and I just get a kick out of it. I've been here for 3 or 4 years now, and I haven't been to work for a single day yet. I still love it. It's still fun.
Oh yeah, before coming out to film with you, you've been tremendous help the last couple months.
Awesome.
As I've enjoyed the CRA Freedom Pack from fall 2023 that has the Julius Caesar
has
in
one
it.
has one of my babies in there.
I look forward to enjoying that in the future as well.
I think you'll really enjoy this one too, especially for kind of on the train of getting into some darker cigars without getting your butt kicked by them. That's definitely a must try.
I think there's one in the pack that's about the same darkness of a wrapper, the Padron.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
There's the Padron. Padron is one of our all-time favorite brands here at the shop. Family owned and operated. They're based in Esteli, Nicaragua. Just a phenomenal cigar. One of the most consistent cigar companies out there. And then if you buy a Padron here, if you buy one in Dallas, if you buy one in Houston, if you buy one in Los Angeles, it's going to draw the same. It's going to taste exactly how you remember it. Just one of the most consistent brands out there. Fantastic one. I think that's the Padron Black in the CRA pack, which was the first place it was available was those CRA packs. And I think it's since been released, maybe at this past year's trade show. And I think it's got a darker wrapper. The Padrons. I'm not sure what the difference in that blend is. I think it's a slightly darker wrapper that they used on there and give it a little more richness, a little more bite.
Nice. Anything else coming up here at the shop, or anything in store for the future?
We are getting into the holiday season here. Well, I say the holiday season. Memorial Day is the first holiday that really marks our kind of summer kickoff. Memorial Day to Labor Day, we really get to see a lot of new faces. We're here, we're right at the end of River Road in Canyon Lake. So if you're coming from New Braunfels and you want to take that nice scenic drive up River Road, when you get to the very end of it, there's a traffic light. And if you look to your left, there we are.
Nice.
And so all the tourists coming through, people camping, floating the river, enjoying their time, we get to see a lot of fresh new faces in there. So this is the most fun time of year. Our trade show has already happened this year. There were 2 smaller trade shows that we participated in. So we're stocked. We're ready.
Oh, so month of May, you're ready, stocked up
Yep,
for
we're ready
that
to go.
Rush towards the end of the month.
We are ready to go. Everything's in the humidor. It's all settled. It's all acclimated, and it's ready to be enjoyed.
Excellent. Well, definitely come down to Canyon Lake Cigar Company. See Cam. He'll be here to give you a little education on cigars. Make sure he finds the right one for you. And have a great summer. And thanks for being with me, Cam.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Quinn.
Well, that'll do it on this episode of Quinn's Next Step. That's my next step. Enjoying a nice cigar. What's your next step? We'll see you on the next one.
Take